Earth sucks. Move out and get a house. And two alien babes on arrival. The day I lost my job was the day I told myself I was done with everything. Earth, especially. The entire planet had devolved into a suffocating mess of ration lines, oxygen tax, and an endless parade of corporate overlords pushing VR escapes to distract us from the fact that half of Miami was underwater. It was the day my boss's holographic face fired me in front of the entire office. A neat little pink slip flickered over my desk. Position terminated due to automated efficiency reassessment. Those words hammered home my worst fear. Even my meager coding skill set was no match for advanced AI. As soon as the slip hovered away, my corporate implant beeped, summarizing the severance in cold bullet points. No pension, no extended health care, and no reason to show up again. I left the building with a half-empty backpack and a gnawing sense of dread. Public transport was jammed, the oxygen meter blinking overhead to deduct from my monthly quota with each breath. An acid drizzle turned the street reflective, brightening the neon graffiti that told passers-by to wake up or buy more hours. Once home, or what passed for a home, a 300-square-foot pod that smelled like old socks and ramen, I realized my rent was 3 months overdue. The landlady had taped a polite final eviction notice to the door. Perfect timing. I yanked it off and slumped inside. The place felt even smaller now that I had no reason to keep paying. I tossed my backpack in the corner, stepped around the leaky air purifier, and took stock. One short-circuited cooking unit, a single bed that sank in the middle, and a half-dead plant attempting to push a green leaf through the smog-stained window. I guess we both knew how it felt to fight for air. I flopped onto the bed, scrolling my neural implants feed, just a swirl of doom-laden news, climate meltdown, mass layoffs, mandatory metaverse expansions. I try to block it out. Then the strangest advertisement popped up, overriding my usual feed. Vibrant colors, swirling stars, bold text. Earth sucks. Move out and get a house. And two alien babes on arrival. Sign up for the ultimate start-over package on Zora Prime. No taxes, no bills, no drama. All you need is you. I stared, half convinced it was a spam virus that would drain my bank account. The ad continued with a montage. Glimmering alien beaches, silhouettes of exotic women with lavender skin, laughing settlers raising drinks in front of odd, pulsating houses. The text scroll below, don't wait for Earth to get better, because it won't. Our interstellar exodus plan covers your flight, your lodging, your future. It was so absurd I laughed out loud. Then I realized the ad had cornered me at the exact moment I was most vulnerable. No job, no apartment, no prospects. They'd targeted me perfectly. I flicked through the details, expecting some insane fee, maybe 1,000,000 Earth credits. But the ad insisted it was free. A direct corporate sponsorship from Celesticorp Interstellar. I tried to wave it away. The thing wouldn't close. My neural implant beeped with a direct link. Go to the Jumping Comet Bar, downtown Sector 14, and speak with our rep. First drink free. The flight of a lifetime awaits. The screen blinked. With a resigned shrug, I swiped the map location to my retinal overlay. I had nowhere else to be. 30 minutes later, I was trudging down broken sidewalks to an old-fashioned neon sign reading The Jumping Comet. The acid drizzle had let up, but my oxygen meter beeped that I'd spent a good portion of my allotment just walking in the open air. Great. Another 10 credits gone. Inside, the bar's stale smell of synthetic whiskey and sweat greeted me. Holographic screens displayed the same ad for Celesticorp Interstellar. Star fields and playful alien silhouettes. The bartender saw me hesitate and slid a drink across the counter, complete with a starry logo on the glass. Celesticorp picking up your first round, he said. Might as well enjoy it. I sipped warily, expecting watery synth, but it was surprisingly close to real whiskey. The burn in my throat made me sigh with relief. Maybe it was the alcohol, maybe the desperation, but that ad flickering on the screen in the corner looked more appealing by the second. A fresh start. Maybe I'd sign up for the interview. I had no illusions about it being some moral paradise. But if a corporation was offering a free trip off planet, I wanted to see how deep the scam went. I scanned the bar. Aside from a few suits nursing cheap beers, there was only one striking figure near the back, a man dressed entirely in shimmering silver. He beckoned me over. I grabbed my glass and approached, heart pounding with a mix of curiosity and cynicism. He rose with a dazzling smile, extended a hand, and introduced himself as Harlan Price, your Celesticorp relocation specialist. Max, I said. I didn't bother with my surname. Harlan's silver suit never creased. He smelled of exotic cologne, a blend of lavender and ozone. He gestured for me to sit in a booth. Max, we've been observing your online patterns. Purely public data, of course, and your profile indicates you'd be a prime candidate for our Zora Prime settlement. Congratulations. Observing me, huh? I leaned back, trying to exude a confidence I didn't feel. Market analysis, let's call it, Harlan said, unperturbed. Zora Prime is a delightful planet with an Earth-compatible atmosphere, a friendly native population, and abundant resources. Our relocation package includes a self-maintaining house and 2 designated cultural companions, as the advertisement states. And no, we do not charge you for that privilege. I sipped my drink, skepticism crawling up my spine. So, you're shipping me off to a planet full of pulsating houses, and I get 2 alien babes? That's your pitch. His grin widened. The term alien babes is a bit reductive, but yes, that's the gist. They're locals who serve as cultural guides, ambassadors. The arrangement is beneficial for them, too. They learn about human culture firsthand. Now, since you're in dire straits on Earth anyway, no offense meant, wouldn't you like a chance at a more vibrant life? I let out a hollow laugh. This is either a scam, or there's a huge catch you're not telling me. The catch, if you want to call it that, is that you must abide by the local customs on Zora Prime. The houses, they're a part of a bioarchitectural design that thrives on emotional synergy. If you maintain positivity, you flourish. The planet, the house, and your companions flourish. Negative experiences can be disruptive. So if I get depressed, my house collapses on me. He waved a dismissive hand. Our data suggests you have the temperament to handle a steady emotional range, and your companions will help ensure your integration is smooth. Look at it as a fresh start, an adventure. Otherwise, well, you can remain here. He gestured vaguely at the rundown bar. Earth's not exactly on an upswing. I swallowed. He had a point. If I stayed, my future looked bleaker by the hour. If I went, maybe I'd find something worth living for. Or I'd die in an alien house meltdown. Harlan placed a sleek tablet on the table, and after a swirl of disclaimers, there was a line from my e-signature. Sign here, he said softly. Departure is tomorrow morning. My hand hovered over the stylus. Tomorrow morning? That's insane. Harlan just shrugged, that confident salesman smile unwavering. Opportunities don't wait. I could have walked away, but I didn't. Something about that promise, a new planet, no bills, a real roof, lured me. Earth had done nothing but crush my hope these last few years. Maybe it was the whiskey, or the neon haze, or the fact that the bartender hovered behind me like a vulture waiting for the next broken dream. I pressed my thumb to the tablet's signature line. The text glowed, sank into the screen, then disappeared. Harlan nodded, satisfied. Welcome to Celesticorp's Exodus program, Max. A drone will pick you up at your place at 0600. Pack light. He stood and offered a handshake. I look forward to hearing of your success. I shook his hand, feeling a trembling in my gut that wasn't just from the whiskey. Sure. Thanks. Part of me kept waiting for him to say, just kidding. But he just gave me that same gleaming grin and walked out of the bar. I stared at the swirling ad on the overhead screen. It felt more personal now. Ready to leave Earth behind? Maybe I was. I spent my final Earth night in a swirl of anxiety, hastily packing a small bag with clothes, a battered old tablet, and a half-charged data chip containing random personal files. My mind spun with questions. Was I nuts? Should I attempt to call a friend, if I even had any left? But I realized I had no one. I'd never felt more alone on a planet of 8 billion. At dawn, a silent drone arrived outside my pod, hovered efficiently, and beeped for me to climb aboard. I left the eviction notice pinned on the door. I didn't even glance at my half-dead plant. Somehow, I knew it wouldn't survive another month of my neglect. Maybe the next tenant would rescue it, or maybe it would wither quietly like the rest of the city. The drone whisked me through the empty sky, past corroded skyscrapers, toward the Celesticorp launch site. Everything was happening too quickly. I didn't have time to second-guess my choice before they strapped me into a stasis pod aboard Starship. The last thing I recall was an AI voice lulling me into a chemically induced sleep. Destination, Zora Prime. Estimated arrival, 72 Earth hours. Then darkness. When I woke up, I almost threw up inside my stasis harness. The ship's deceleration hammered me with G-forces, and my arms felt leaden. A female voice outside the pod said, "He's stirring." Lower sedation. The latches hissed, releasing me. I stumbled out onto a metal deck, blinking at harsh fluorescent lights overhead. Someone caught my arm, slender, surprisingly strong. I managed to focus on an alien face. Wide silver eyes, pale turquoise skin, and symmetrical markings along her cheekbones. She wore a fitted jumpsuit that somehow looked both official and stylish. She gave me a wry smile. "Careful. First steps on a new planet can be disorienting." I coughed. "You're telling me? Where? Who are you?" "I'm Lyrina, your designated cultural companion," she said, glancing at a small device in her hand. "You're Max, correct? Celesticorp data says you're from Earth's East American sector." I rubbed my eyes. "Yeah, that's me." Another voice piped in from behind, sounding lighter and more playful. "I told you he'd be tall." I turned to see a second alien woman approach, wearing an outfit with bright colors. Her skin was a deep lilac, with swirling patterns that seemed to shift as I watched. She gave me a grin that radiated mischief. "I'm Syl. We're both assigned to help you adjust. Welcome to Zora Prime." I stepped away from Lyrina, trying not to look as disoriented as I felt. The docking area was wide, with transparent panels revealing a sky-tinted pinkish purple. My head pounded. "So it's true? I'm here, on an alien planet." "Right." Syl nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, and soon you'll see your new home. The big advantage: no Earth taxes, no oxygen quotas, no Rochi apartments. We do have certain customs, but we'll walk you through all of that." I took a deep breath. The air smelled crisp, a bit sweet. My immediate impression was that I could breathe without feeling like I was draining my wallet. Despite my swirling anxiety, I felt a pinch of relief. Maybe I'd done the right thing coming here. Then I remembered, what about my house? Or, well, the house Celesticorp claims they gave me. Lyrina tapped her device. "We call them living houses or bioresidences. They're unique to Zora Prime's ecosystem. You won't have rent, but the house has particular needs for emotional energy." She frowned slightly. "Don't worry, you won't be exploited. It's more of a synergy. We'll explain everything. Sounds like you feed the house with good vibes, and it feeds you in return." I ventured, thinking about that weird pitch I'd heard in the bar. Syl laughed. "That's the short version. Let's get you settled, and we'll talk details over a proper meal. The flight can be rough on the human body." She wasn't wrong. My knees felt like jelly. Together, we exited the dock, crossing into an open courtyard that overlooked a sprawling alien city. My first glimpse of Zora Prime's architecture took my breath away. Meandering streets filled with faintly glowing structures, a swirl of organic curves and translucent materials. There was greenery in astonishing shades of lilac and teal. Flying vehicles hummed overhead, shaped like elongated spirals, each leaving a shimmering contrail behind. The horizon looked infinite, as if the planet's atmosphere refracted light in a gentler way than Earth. I tried to imagine living here. A small hovering craft approached, a sort of open-air pod that hovered a few feet off the ground. Syl gestured for me to climb in, and Lyrina sat beside me. The pod whirred quietly, pulling away from the docking complex. As we glided, I noticed entire neighborhoods of strange living houses, each pulsating softly, as if breathing. The streets were less congested than Earth's, but I spotted other humans among the population, each with one or two alien companions in tow. Syl pointed to a cluster of houses perched along a gently sloping hill. That district is where your new place is located. Usually we keep fresh arrivals near the main city so they can access resources and not feel isolated. Isolated is the last thing I want, I said, though I wasn't sure I wanted neighbors who might ask how I ended up here. The entire journey felt surreal, like a dream from which I might wake up in my old roach-infested apartment. But the crisp air, the hum of the hoverpod, and the shifting colors on Syl's skin insisted this was no dream. We arrived at a small, winding path that led to a curious structure shaped like a soft dome. The walls glowed with a faint, pearly sheen, and the doorway looked more organic than mechanical. There were ridges along the exterior that gently expanded and contracted, as though the house inhaled the ambient atmosphere. My stomach clenched. Syl hopped out. Home sweet home, Max. Check it out. Lyrina walked ahead, her posture elegant, tapping the door with 2 fingers. It rippled and dilated open. She glanced at me. Don't be alarmed by the motion. It's how the house recognizes your presence. I followed them inside, stepping onto a floor that felt firm, yet subtly pliable, like stepping on compressed moss. The interior was softly lit by bioluminescent threads weaving along the ceiling. Furniture formed from the same living material, shaped into inviting seats. A large open area resembled a living room, and a curved opening led to what might be a kitchen or garden. The air smelled of fresh flowers or something akin to that. I could see watery patterns swirling under the walls, as if the house had veins. So did a theatrical spin. Tada! It's not all that big, but it's cozy, and it'll adjust as your emotional needs shift. I raise an eyebrow. Adjust? So if I'm sad, it'll turn into a depressing cave. Lyrina gave me a measured look. Not exactly, but the house is sensitive to emotional resonance. If you constantly radiate negativity, it might become claustrophobic or start malfunctioning. If you experience genuine happiness, it expands, becomes more vibrant, more comfortable. The house is an organism that feeds on emotional energy, but in a stable relationship, it won't drain you. It's give and take. Great, I muttered, dropping my bag onto one of the living chairs. So I just have to keep smiling forever or get devoured by my own house. Syl patted my shoulder. Don't worry. Lyrina and I are here to ensure you don't spiral. We'll keep the vibes good. That's basically our job. Plus, we like you already. The system only fails for people who can't adapt. I tried to appear casual, but a twinge of fear ran down my spine. What happens to those who can't adapt? Her playful grin flickered. They leave, she said quietly, or they vanish. Sometimes people can't handle it. Lyrina shot her a cautionary glance. Syl cleared her throat. But that's super rare. It was obvious they weren't telling me everything. Nonetheless, the seat was comfortable, the interior lighting strangely soothing. My entire body still felt the ache of stasis travel. Part of me wanted to collapse onto whatever passed for a bed here and not wake up for hours. Lyrina's device beeped. She glanced at it. Your biometric readings show significant fatigue. We'll let you rest. Tomorrow we can do a city tour, introduce you to a couple other settlers. You can see how they've settled in. Syl added, plus, we'll talk about the daily routine, meal logistics, and any questions you have. Right now, though, do you want to see your bedroom? I nodded, not trusting myself to form a witty response. They led me through a short corridor that opened into a softly curved sleeping area. The bed looked like a large bubble, half sunken in the living floor, covered with a smooth, faintly glowing sheet. I half expected it to be slimy, but when I pressed a hand to it, it was just pleasantly warm. I almost sighed with relief. Syl gave a dramatic bow. Enjoy your night, dear Earthman. We'll be in the next chamber. If you need anything, just call out. The walls have an acoustic relay to let us hear you. I was too tired to question how that worked. I just dropped onto the bed, which molded perfectly to my body. I heard Lyrina's gentle voice behind me. Sleep well. Then the door closed, sealing me in a quiet, luminescent cocoon. I wasn't sure how long I slept. Hours or maybe a day. My dreams were a swirl of memories. My final day on Earth, signing that insane contract, and images of Syl's bright grin and Lyrina's cool gaze. When I woke, I felt an odd sense of calm. The bed had supported me impeccably. The ceiling overhead glowed a gentle rose color, as if mimicking dawn. I sat up, stretching. My clothes were wrinkled, and I still felt the pang of confusion about what time it was. A watery shape on the wall rippled. My mind processed that it might be the door. As I stood, it dilated open. The rest of the house came into view, softly lit. I found Lyrina sitting at a living table, reading from her handheld device. Syl was fiddling with something that looked like a coffee machine. Organic version? Syl beamed at me. Morning, sunshine. Or, well, local morning anyway. I rubbed my face. Feels weird. I'll take coffee if that's what you're making. Something like coffee, she said with a smirk. She handed me a mug filled with a dark liquid. I sniffed it. A rich, earthy aroma, reminiscent of coffee but with a faint tang. I sipped carefully. The taste was smoother than earth coffee, less bitter, with a hint of spiciness. It woke me right up. Wow, I said, eyes widening. This is good. Lyrina looked pleased. We have a greenhouse district that cultivates earth plants. Zora Prime soil is quite compatible, and some local species can be hybridized. This brew is partly coffee, partly a local bean that thrives in synergy with the earth strain. Talk about synergy, I muttered, scanning the room. So, are we going somewhere today? Syl nodded vigorously. Yes, a quick tour of the city. We'll show you the main square, a couple communal hubs. Then you'll meet other humans like Greg from London and Camila from Rio. They can share how they adjusted. I studied Syl's excited face, then Lyrina's more measured expression. They both seemed genuine. I realized I still carried the Earth habit of looking for ulterior motives. Possibly they had them, but at least for now, they seemed sincere about guiding me. I inhaled deeply, focusing on a coffee-like brew. All right, I said, give me a city tour. But I want the truth, not just the sales pitch. If this is too good to be true, you need to tell me. Lyrina inclined her head. We'll do our best, Max. They escorted me outside. The morning light on Zora Prime was breathtaking. The pinkish sky had deep turquoise clouds drifting lazily. The sun, actually a star with slightly different composition, cast a warm glow that highlighted the pastel rooftops of the living houses. The path along our district was made of some smooth, translucent substance that pulsed with a gentle luminescence, as if forming a network across the entire community. As we strolled, I saw other humans. Some looked content, strolling arm in arm with alien companions. Others seemed forced, with wide smiles that never quite reached their eyes. I wondered if they, like me, had come here out of desperation. I also noticed that every house had a distinct shape, but each one pulsed softly in time with the occupant's steps. Syl explained, the houses adapt to each person or family. In your case, it might remain fairly small until you build more robust emotional synergy. Then it can grow extra rooms or features. And if my synergy is negative? She shrugged, but I caught the flicker of unease. Let's hope we don't have to explore that. Lyrina cleared her throat. It's important to note that negativity happens, of course. You can be sad, anxious, angry. The house won't devour you from mild negativity. The real danger is severe emotional collapse or utter despair. That can tip the house's biological processes into meltdown. Meltdown, another word for your house, tries to eat you. Syl nudged my arm in a half-joking gesture. We're going to help you, remember? And you can help us too. This is a partnership. Despite my sarcasm, I was grateful for their presence. We soon reached a broad plaza flanked by large dome-like structures that were less organic, more standard architecture. I saw signage in multiple languages: English, Spanish, Chinese, plus swirling alien glyphs. People bustled around, some carrying produce or weird spiky fruit. Vendors hawked items that glowed or exuded strange scents. A sign overhead read, Zora Prime Communal Market, sponsored by Celesticorp. Syl pointed to a shop with glass walls. We could get a quick snack there. Hungry? I nodded. Starving, actually. I had no idea how my body was handling local food, but presumably they'd accounted for that. Otherwise, I'd have starved in a day. We stepped inside, greeted by a riot of colors. Shelves displayed fruit, pastries, and even what looked like packages of freeze-dried Earth items. The clerk, a smiling alien with pale gold skin, welcomed us warmly. I grabbed a piece of bright orange fruit, shaped like a star, and bit in cautiously. Sweetness flooded my taste buds. I devoured it in seconds, feeling instantly energized. Wow, I said, this tastes better than anything I had on Earth in years. That's the difference between forced Earth farms and Zora's living ecosystem, Lyrina observed. Here, everything is grown with synergy in mind. We left the store and continued on, eventually finding ourselves near a large open-air pavilion. Dozens of humans milled about, each with one or two alien companions, all sipping colored drinks or chatting. Syl pointed out a tall man with sandy hair. That's Greg. He's been here about 6 months. Greg spotted us and waved. He jogged over, greeting me with an enthusiastic handshake. Hey, new arrival, right? Welcome to paradise. He flashed a grin that showed perfect teeth. The two aliens at his side, both slender, teal-skinned, gazed at him with what seemed like adoration. I introduced myself. Greg launched into a spiel about how amazing the planet was. No taxes, easy living, every day a new adventure. Yet his voice had an uncomfortably manic edge. Best decision of my life, mate, he said, clapping me on the shoulder. Just keep those positive vibes rolling, and you'll have a bigger place in no time. What if I'm not always positive? I asked, stepping away slightly. He chuckled nervously. Well, that's when your companions help you out. See? They'll keep you on the right track. Anyway, gotta run. We're on our way to a synergy session. Cheers, friend. He bounded off with his aliens in tow, leaving me unsettled. Syl frowned, but said nothing. Lyrina guided me through another corridor in the pavilion, leading to a quieter lounge area. She gestured for me to sit at a comfortable table made of woven living fibers. You don't want to end up quite like Greg, Lyrina said softly. He's so fixated on positivity that he forces it, because if he fails, he might get devoured. I said. My voice was clipped. It felt like a cult, an entire planet of forced cheerfulness. Let's say he had a rough start, Syl murmured. His house threatened meltdown. Ever since, he's been pathologically upbeat. Sometimes genuine, sometimes not. But it keeps him safe. She sighed. It doesn't have to be that way. The synergy can be more balanced. A feeling of unease coiled in my stomach. Balanced how? Lyrina folded her hands, her silver eyes glinting. A healthy synergy is about emotional authenticity. The house can handle negative emotions, some sadness, frustration, provided there's a resolution or forward movement. Total despair or hatred can cause the house to become predatory. The original inhabitants of Zora lived in a natural synergy, but Celesticorp, well, they modified the houses to be more reliant on strong emotional output. So a mild negativity can be tolerated, but an extreme or continuous negativity can turn dangerous. I rubbed my temples. So that was the catch. This is starting to sound like a corporate experiment in mood control. Syl shot me an apologetic look. I guess it kind of is. But think about Earth. You were depressed there, too, but with no supportive structure. At least here, you have a chance at a better life if you can maintain healthy emotional rhythms. She reached across and squeezed my hand. And we do want to help. I stared at her slender violet fingers curling around mine. Warmth spread from her touch. Maybe that was part of the design. Maybe these aliens were engineered to be impossibly attractive to humans, so we'd stay cooperative. I felt a flicker of rebellion. Did Celesticorp think I could be so easily manipulated? A soft chime echoed through the lounge. Lyrina glanced at her device. Time for the settlement orientation. Let's head back. The others will be there, and we can see the next steps. I nodded, though my mind churned with questions. Together, we walked back the way we came, passing more humans, each with that slightly too bright look in their eyes. A short, round woman with curly hair offered a wave. Her two companions had skin that shimmered in pastel shades. She seemed actually happy, not forced. Maybe it was possible. Maybe Zora Prime had an upside if one could figure out the system. The orientation was held in a dome near the market. A Celesticorp hologram flickered at the front, detailing guidelines for a fulfilling life on Zora Prime. I recognized that slick tone, the same corporate nonsense that had fired me on Earth. The illusions of freedom here felt suddenly thin. But I bit my tongue and listened. They hammered home the cardinal rule: maintain emotional synergy. If synergy breaks down, your house might forcibly absorb you. If that happened, you'd join the growing list of unresolved settlers. A perfect euphemism for dead, presumably. After the orientation, Syl and Lyrina took me to a quieter corner. Syl's usual grin had faded. Look, I can tell you have a healthy skepticism. That's good. It means you won't just plaster on a fake smile until it kills you. It also means you might be able to figure out solutions that others can't. My eyebrows rose. Solutions? Lyrina lowered her voice. The original Zorians, the natives of this planet, had a much more balanced relationship with the living houses. It wasn't based on forced positivity or meltdown. Celesticorp came in and genetically tweaked the houses to demand bigger emotional outputs. That's why you see so many forced smiles. The system could be undone, we believe, if we can access the internal bionetwork of the houses. Then maybe we could revert them to their natural state, where they feed on ambient emotions, not devouring people who sink into negativity. It took me a few seconds to process. So you're telling me there's a possibility we can stop the houses from being so predatory? Yes, Syl whispered, glancing around to ensure no one overheard. But it requires someone with enough knowledge of neural tech or coding to break through Celesticorp's lock on the genetic data. Lyrina's a local scientist, and I have some connections to the older Zorian traditions. A tingle of excitement mixed with fear. And you think I can help? Lyrina nodded calmly. We've accessed your Earth records. You had a background in software engineering, some biointerface exposure. It's enough to start. I almost laughed at the irony. I've been fired for not meeting corporate efficiency. Now maybe I'd sabotage a different corporation on an alien planet. What's in it for me? Syl gave me a hopeful smile. A stable future, for starters. A house that won't threaten to eat you. True freedom. And you'd be helping everyone, even the other settlers who are stuck in this unnatural cycle. My mean spoon. This was bigger than anything I planned for. But the entire situation was insane anyway. Why not go all in? I glanced at Syl's luminous eyes, Lyrina's unwavering gaze. All right, let's do it. But I need to understand the technology behind these houses. They exchanged glances. Relief evident. Lyrina said, we'll show you what we have. But we need to be discreet. If Celesticorp suspects were tampering, they'll send enforcers. Back at my living house, we retreated to a side chamber. The house's walls shifted in response to our conversation, forming a private nook with a flat living surface that displayed data. Lyrina tapped in commands, unveiling a blueprint of a bioresidence with swirling nodes and branches that reminded me of neural networks. This is your house's structure, she explained. It's partly organic, partly tech. Celesticorp introduced these artificial boosters to amplify the emotional feedback loop. If we remove them or reprogram them to a lower threshold, the house should revert to stable synergy without meltdown. Syl frowned. They also installed a protective failsafe. Anyone who tries to hack it triggers a meltdown to protect corporate property. That's why it's so risky. I studied the blueprint. So we can't just go in guns blazing. We have to slip in code or signals carefully, right? Bypass or reroute the meltdown triggers. That's the idea, Lyrina said. We suspect the meltdown triggers also connect to a planet-wide network. Celesticorp can monitor meltdown data to ensure the houses remain dependent on them. They claim it's all for settler safety, but obviously that's not the truth. I traced a swirling line on the blueprint. Then we might need a multi-stage approach. Start small. Alter a single node. See how the system reacts. If we can suppress meltdown triggers on a local scale, maybe that success spreads to other houses. They're all connected, right? Syl's face brightened with excitement. Yes, exactly. The houses communicate through a shared planetary network, like mycelium in a fungal colony, except it's half biotech. If one house changes and survives that change, it might broadcast the new pattern to others. A flicker of hope kindled in me. Then let's do it. Over the next weeks, we carefully ran tests. Sil would calm the house with mild emotional positivity, while Lyrena and I tinkered with an interface near the basement level. The basement, an unsettling space that pulsed more strongly, was where the booster nodes were located. It was also where I discovered hints of the house's more menacing side. Dark patches that seemed almost hungry if I lingered too long with negative thoughts. I forced myself to stay calm. One evening, we decided to attempt a minor reprogramming of a single node. I typed lines of code into Lyrena's device, bridging my old Earth hacking knowledge with what I'd gleaned of the house's biotech. Sil stood by, eyes closed, focusing on maintaining a peaceful emotional field. Lyrena guided me. The moment I pressed enter, the house shuddered. A ripple passed through the walls. For a second, I thought we'd triggered meltdown. Then it stabilized. My breath whooshed out in relief. Check the readouts, Lyrena said quietly, scanning the device. A line of data scrolled by, showing changes in the node's tolerance for negative emotion. It's holding. We've increased the threshold by 5%. Not huge, but a start. I let out a laugh that came from sheer adrenaline. No meltdown. That's something. We climbed back upstairs, where the living room glowed with a faint new hue. Sil grinned, practically bouncing. We did it. Part of the meltdown trigger is gone, or at least weakened. But success was short-lived. Within an hour, a loud banging came at the door. Lyrena and I froze. Sil's eyes went wide. Enforcers, she whispered. The door rippled open without permission, and a tall figure in a black uniform strode in, flanked by two others. All had stern expressions, carrying scanning devices that hummed menacingly. The leader, a man with short-cropped hair, glared at me. Max, is it? We received a meltdown anomaly from your house. Mind explaining what you were doing? My heart hammered. Nothing. I had a moment of stress, I guess. His scanner beeped, shining a harsh light across the living room. The house trembled, unsure of how to respond to the intrusion. Lyrena kept her face neutral, so tried to stand casually, but her swirling color patterns betrayed tension. The enforcer studied his scanner. The meltdown reading spiked, but then stabilized in a manner consistent with tampering. Celesticorp has strict policies against unauthorized house modifications. I shrugged, hoping my voice didn't shake. I don't even know how to tamper with it. I'm just a brand new settler. Maybe the system glitched. My mouth felt dry as sand. He frowned, then looked at Lyrena and Sil. We'll run a deeper diagnostic. In the meantime, all three of you are to remain on site for further observation. If we find evidence of unauthorized hacking, you'll be forcibly off-planet. Or worse. He barked an order to his subordinates, who set up some sort of monitoring node near the wall. Then they left, their boots clacking ominously. I slumped onto a chair, my pulse still pounding. Sil exhaled shakily. That was close. Lyrena's jaw tightened. They left a monitor. We're on Celesticorp's watch list now. We'll have to be extremely careful. The next few days turned into a tense waiting game. The monitor beeped at intervals, making me feel like I was under constant surveillance. Lyrena checked in with me on strategies to hide our modifications. Sil continued boosting the house with gentle positivity so it wouldn't betray our new code. Part of me wanted to give up, but the thought of living in fear, forced to grin every day, spurred me on. Late one evening, while Sil dozed in the living room and Lyrena studied data, I sat alone in my bedroom. I felt the house's gentle breathing. In a dark corner, the walls glistened with that faint organic sheen. I realized I didn't just want to free myself from meltdown risk. I wanted to free the entire planet from Celesticorp's manipulations. Millions of living houses, each forced into an unnatural hunger for extreme emotions, and settlers manipulated into grin-in-barrack compliance. This was bigger than me. I approached the corner, pressing a hand to the wall. Beneath my palm, a rhythmic pulse. I tried to focus on sending calm, determined energy. The house responded with a flicker of warmth. I whispered, "We're going to fix you." My reflection warped across the living surface. No meltdown, no fear. just a gentle acceptance. Our next step was bolder. We decided to replicate our hack code across multiple nodes in the house, creating a chain reaction that might override the meltdown sequence entirely. If that succeeded, then the house might broadcast the new pattern to the local network. But it would also trigger a major anomaly. Enforcers would come in force. We planned it carefully. Lyrena prepared a shield script that would scramble Celesticorp signals for a short period. Sil promised to gather supportive neighbors who were also frustrated by force positivity. Meanwhile, I refined the hack code. Each day, I grew more confident in how the biotech responded, as if the house was guiding me. Finally, the night came. We used a window of time when the Enforcer monitor did its routine reset, giving us a narrow gap to act undetected. We slipped into the basement again. The booster nodes glowed faintly, like alien hearts. I plugged Lyrena's device into the main junction. She initiated the shield script, and Sil stood close, eyes shut, radiating calm. I typed rapidly, overriding meltdown thresholds one by one. The house lurched, a deep groan reverberating. Liquid patterns swirled across the walls. My heart pounded, but I kept typing. Another wave of data scrolled. The meltdown triggers collapsed. The booster code unraveled. I saw a final prompt. Broadcast new baseline to external network? Yes/no. I selected yes. A surge of raw power burst through the house. The basement walls pulsed with brilliant color. My eardrums rang from the energy. Lyrena grabbed my arm, eyes shining with awe. It's working. The house is transmitting. Sil let out a gasp of wonder, her skin flickering with iridescent patterns. I can feel it reaching the others. They're responding. Upstairs, the Enforcer monitor beeped frantically, detecting massive irregularities. We heard shouting from outside. The door slammed open, and Enforcers poured in. Stop! Their leader roared, brandishing a baton. Shut this down, or we'll forcibly terminate the house. He ran for the basement, only to be stopped short by a phenomenon that made me gasp. The walls formed a barrier, thickening into a crystalline partition. The house was defending itself and us. The Enforcers hammered on it, but cracks glowed with the same luminous energy we'd unleashed. I could see the fear in their eyes. They were used to controlling meltdown, not a house that fought back. Then the entire structure rippled, sending out a final broadcast wave. I felt it in my bones, a hum that resonated with everything around us. The Enforcers dropped their weapons in shock. Lyrena clutched my hand, tears glistening in her silver eyes. We did it, she whispered. Moments later, the wave receded. The walls turned serene, and the barrier dissolved. The Enforcers stood there disoriented. Their leader lifted his scanner, jaw clenched, only to find the readout scrambled. He glared at me. What did you do? I didn't even answer, because just then I heard a distant roar from outside, like 100 houses shifting simultaneously. Sil, panting from the exertion of maintaining calm in a crisis, said, "They're all changing." We hurried out the front door. The entire district glowed with new patterns, houses shimmering as they integrated the update. I saw neighbors stepping outside, confusion and awe on their faces. Greg from London stared as his house reshaped itself into a more stable design. He gave me a baffled grin. "Mate, is this you?" Before I could respond, the Enforcers regrouped. "This is an unauthorized override of Celesticorp property," the leader barked. "All of you are under arrest." But behind him, new arrivals landed in a sleek craft. Local Zorians, actual natives from the older civilization that had existed before Celesticorp. They marched forward with an air of quiet authority. Their spokesperson, a tall figure with shimmering green skin, raised a hand. Celesticorp's false modifications have ended. The planet reclaims its natural harmony. He turned to the Enforcers. "You've forcibly violated the original treaties. Zora Prime does not belong to your corporation." The Enforcers seemed stunned. The locals' energy radiated a presence far stronger than I'd ever felt. One of the Enforcers tried to protest, but the representative's expression was unyielding. "Leave," he said, "or face charges of planetary exploitation." The enforcers looked torn, but the entire district was coming alive with watchers, humans, aliens, newly awakened houses. They realized they were outnumbered and outmaneuvered. With a sneer, their leader spat, "This isn't over," before motioning for his men to retreat. They climbed into their transport and sped away into the night. Relief flooded me, my knees weak. Syl laughed in pure exhilaration, spinning me in a quick hug. Lyrina exhaled, her posture finally relaxing. The local Zorians nodded at us in gratitude. "You have undone great harm," one said. "We will ensure no more forced emotional exploitation occurs here." From that day onward, Zora Prime transformed rapidly. The houses no longer demanded extreme positivity. They returned to a gentler synergy, feeding on ambient emotional currents from daily life. Settlers felt free to express sadness, anger, and joy with equal authenticity, no meltdown lurking. Greg told me days later he'd never felt such relief. For once, he could breathe without forcing a grin. Celesticorp's influence waned. Some enforcers tried small acts of sabotage, but the planet's newly unified living network recognized threats instantly. The older Zorian civilization reclaimed a leadership role, focusing on real harmony between the planet's biosphere and its new settlers. They invited humans to learn how to cultivate stable synergy, no longer built on fear. As for my own living house, it blossomed in unexpected ways. With the meltdown triggers gone, it developed new spaces that felt more like an extension of my personality. A music alcove for me to play the ancient guitar sample I'd coded on Earth. The house shaped a real string instrument for me. A sunken tub area that Syl teased me about until she hopped in with me, dissolving any tension in playful splashes. The house's colors matched my moods, but didn't devour them. It simply flowed with them. Syl and Lyrina remained by my side, no longer obligated by corporate contract, but choosing to stay with me. We formed a bond deeper than anything I'd experienced. They teased me about my Earth cynicism, but also learned from it. I, in turn, learned trust and hope from them. We had become a triad, each supporting the others, learning the planet's hidden wonders. Some nights, we'd drift to sleep with the house's gentle hum around us, feeling a profound sense of belonging. Other settlers adapted, too. Some, like Greg, chose to remain, building a new life free from Earth's mess. Others decided to return to Earth, bringing news of alternative living systems that could help that dying planet. There is talk of using Zora's bioarchitecture to restore Earth's ravaged environment. Maybe Earth wasn't doomed after all. Freed from Celesticorp's grip, the planet's living technology could be shared ethically, not exploited. Months passed. I found myself standing outside our home, gazing at two suns setting side by side, painting the sky with peach and lavender streaks. My arms were slung around Lyrina and Syl. The breeze smelled of sweet blossoms from the orchard we'd grown out back. A faint ripple of conversation drifted up from neighbors below, who'd gathered to celebrate a new wave of arrivals. No fear, no meltdown, just a collective sense of possibility. Earth sucks? It sure did, but that was exactly why I come to Zora Prime. Ironically, the planet that had once promised me a bizarre combination of a free house and two alien babes turned out to be more genuine than I dared hope. Freed from corporate sabotage, the houses here no longer threatened to consume despairing settlers. Instead, they taught us all what it meant to share, to connect, to trust. My cynicism hadn't vanished entirely, but it had found a place in a balanced emotional spectrum. I was allowed to be angry, sad, ecstatic. It was all part of the synergy. Syl snuggled closer, her violet skin reflecting a content glow from the suns. "You still happy you signed that contract?" she teased. I chuckled softly, happy I tore it up more like, and replaced it with something better. Lyrina gave a small smile. We built it ourselves. A new contract, grounded in authenticity. I leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to each of their foreheads. That's the best contract of all, and I guess I owe Earth one gratitude. It sucked enough to push me here. Hard to imagine life if I hadn't seen that insane ad in the scummy bar. So closed her eyes, a peaceful expression drifting over her face. Life's full of insane ads, but few lead to something real. I let my gaze roam over the shimmering houses below, each a testament to a synergy once corrupted, now restored. People inside them laughed, cried, lived fully with no meltdown. This planet, with its pinkish skies and flowing architecture, was my home now. My chest stirred with an emotion I rarely felt on Earth. Hope. Far away, I knew Celesticorp still had resources, maybe other colonized planets they twisted. But here on Zora Prime, we'd cut off their control. We'd proven it was possible to unite technology and nature without turning people into disposable batteries. That truth would spread. Maybe one day, Earth would discover it could do the same with its battered environment. Nights settled in, the double suns dipping below the horizon. Twinkling alien stars peppered the sky in constellations I was still learning. Lyrina led us inside with a gentle tug. The living house recognized our approach, the walls blooming with soft luminescence. I found comfort in that glow, not fear. In the corner, the organic surfaces shaped themselves into something like a small hearth, radiating gentle warmth. We sat in a circle, sharing a meal of local fruits and a savory stew that Syl had concocted. Lyrina's device beeped occasionally with data from the planetary network. Each beep confirmed stable synergy levels across the region. No meltdown events reported for weeks. A minor miracle for the settlers who once lived in dread. I reflected on everything that had happened since I left Earth. Signing that shady contract, waking on an alien planet, meeting these two extraordinary beings, risking meltdown to undo Celesticorp's manipulations. It felt like a lifetime, and yet it was only the beginning of a new era for me, for them, for every battered soul who needed a second chance. When we finished eating, Syl told a local myth about the original Zorians who lived in the Great Harmony. She described how entire forests were once living systems, caring for the emotional well-being of their inhabitants. People thrived in near-telepathic empathy. That was centuries ago, before corporations from Earth discovered they could exploit the bioresonant technology for profit. They twisted a gift into a liability, she concluded softly. But we've twisted it back, Lyrina said, her voice firm. Not perfectly, but enough to realign the planet's core system with the original design. I reached out, entwining my fingers with both of theirs. And we'll keep going. This synergy is just the start. Maybe we can show Earth how to fix its own environment. Grow living structures that filter pollution, feed on emotional harmony rather than corporate greed. Syl's eyes lit up. Zora technology could heal Earth's air. The concept is the same. Instead of being forced to pay for each breath, your old planet could share synergy with the environment. I pictured an Earth city with living buildings, each supporting human life without draining it. It was a distant dream, but no more impossible than the idea that I'd be sitting here with two alien companions in a living house on a faraway planet. Lyrina squeezed my hand. We'll do it together, if that's the path you choose. There's a delegation forming to open direct connections with Earth, now that Celesticorp's local hold is broken. We could be a part of it. Part of me balked at the idea of returning to Earth, even as a visitor. I'd escaped, but maybe it was time to share what we'd learned, to give others a chance at synergy rather than hopelessness. Let's see how things settle first, I said gently. For now, I just want to enjoy what we built here. They both smiled. Outside, the night breeze carried the faint hum of other houses, each in harmony with their inhabitants. No meltdown necessary. I felt that hum resonate in my bones, a quiet song of acceptance. Slowly, we made our way to the sleeping area, the house's walls adjusting to cradle us in a soft glow. I lay there, Syl's head on my shoulder, Lyrina's arm draped across my chest, the gentle pulse of the living structure beneath us. If I told my younger self back on Earth that I'd end up like this, part of a triad on an alien planet, forging a new synergy that canceled out years of corporate corruption, I'd have laughed in disbelief. But here I was, proof that life takes you places you can't predict. Drowsiness overcame me as I listened to Syl's breathing, to Lyrina's quiet heartbeat, to the faint chorus of living houses in the distance. The memory of the first time I saw that ridiculous ad in a rundown bar flickered in my mind. Earth sucks? Move. Out and get a house. And two alien babes on arrival. I almost smiled at how the marketing had rung so hollow, and yet it led me to something that felt genuinely right. The house's pulsing lulled me deeper into that sense of belonging. Tomorrow might bring more challenges, more expansions in our synergy research, perhaps the final push to connect with Earth's activists. But for tonight, I let myself sink into this living bed, safe in the knowledge that I wasn't a prisoner to forced positivity. I could feel sadness, joy, anger, wonder, each emotion valuable, each one welcomed in the tapestry of synergy. I drifted off to sleep with the realization that the best kind of advertisement was the one you wrote yourself, a story of reclamation and freedom, not fear and meltdown. Zora Prime, newly awakened, hummed in agreement, as though we were all rewriting the terms of existence together. If that wasn't worth the leap from a dying planet, I didn't know what was.